because according to a definition by Collins Dictionary, going places means the situation where one shows a lot of talent or ability to become very successful. So for me, news literacy can certainly take us to going places through the acquisition of critical media and information literacy skills, a lifelong learning journey where we can ultimately enjoy our online existence, navigate safely, express freely our opinion, exchange views and worldviews in the meta-media universe, and become finally, eventually informed and media autonomous citizens, like Masterman has said early on. So among the words of the year for 2023 were two words. The first word was AI by Webster Dictionary, and the second word was authentic, having a Greek etymological origin. And authentic is about the real, about the genuine, against the dominant assumptions of the Greek myths. So in fact, Greek ancient philosophers did not talk about being an authentic individual, but rather how to achieve virtue. So authenticity for our field of action here is closely related to content, whom I've said several times that content is the king, but the platform, the medium which is being transmitted is the queen. So we have different media messages coming across to us directly or indirectly every day through different media platforms. News platforms, portals, streaming content platforms, intermediaries, internet service providers, AR, gamification platforms, you name it. So all these platforms have to do with media and information literacy, because media and information literacy is an umbrella term, as UNESCO has cited it, and it has two main dimensions, the cognitive dimension and the technical dimension. Both dimensions are equally necessary if we want to reach thriving knowledge societies. So to say, one cannot exist without the other, they should coexist. So media literacy is generally defined as a fundamental human rights-based civic education competency for all, for the 21st century citizen, a citizen who is able, who needs to have a voice, a choice, and a strong presence in the public media sphere. According to the EU definition, media literacy is the ability to access the media, to understand and critically evaluate different aspects of the media messages and media content, and to create communications in a variety of contexts. An extended definition sees that of an informed and active citizenship, combining a set of skills, knowledge, and understanding of the media. And there is also this European directive that is being transposed into law among the member states that says that we should not limit media literacy to learning about tools and digital technologies, but to equip citizens with digital realities and recognize opinion and fact in the news agenda. So lots of definitions going on there. And news literacy is a structural element of news literacy then, and it is all, it has to do with the media critical thinking skills for analyzing and judging the reliability of news and information, to be able to differentiate among facts, opinion, and assertions in the media we consume, we create, we distribute. It can be taught most effectively in cross-curricular, inquiry-based formats in the classroom. And of course, it is a necessary component of media and information literacy and AI literacy. The most usual elements have to do with we need to be news literate in order to make sure that we have a free flow of information, to exercise the right of freedom of expression, which is the cornerstone of democracy, to have the ability to tell fact from opinion as a basic cognitive skill. This is an obligation in the digital era. And to be able to exercise transparent reporting for media professionals, Then we can have trusted news and then trusted media societies. To be able to verify news through fact-checking and trusted flaggers, which are mechanisms that ought to act as watchdogs for the platforms, the streaming content platforms. And then post, share, disseminated, trusted content online in order to enjoy an open public discourse and empower citizens as digital citizens. So the crucial thing about news literacy skills is to be able to make the right questions and not providing the right answers. Able to ask the AI systems the right questions if we want to receive the right for our research results. So not just requesting for answers, but being able to evaluate the questions and the results being driven to us. If I was able to share, but I cannot yet, I have gathered here the 5 W's and 1 H's bios. Okay, now I'm
Thank you very much, Irene.
timing. Thank you. Okay, so you can see that now. These are the 5 W's and 1 H. These are the cornerstone elements for journalism, but we can use them as citizens, as users of online digital media as well, such as to always quest and ask ourselves about what sources can I trust, where can I find this information I'm looking for, what is the appropriate medium for that information, who could be affected by this information I'm reading right now, this news, what techniques are being used to attract my attention, what is the intention of this information, to sell, to persuade, to change our worldview, and how can I verify this information? How can I use my own truthometer? How can I validate this information? I will talk about this one. Okay, so this is my framework I have created about media and information literacy and how as a set of skills can lead to knowledge societies. It can have an influential positive impact on social or knowledge societies, and especially in the new digital media, especially on generative AI technologies, because MI skills can act as our own self-regulating force, our own self-defense system against harmful and inappropriate content online and information manipulation. As media and information literacy practitioners, we need to familiarize ourselves with all new AI, the systems that Alex has already talked about, in order to adapt our identities and to be able to react properly to the media stimuli online. So let me guide you just a little bit about the procedures that are related to news development and information development, the production of information. This is part of the information cycle. This is part of the communication models and refers to the progressive way that one information is undergoing in order to reach the final recipients, which can be one individual or the audience of too many. It is the life cycle of an information from the moment the need for information is identified, when initially enters the public spheres, what I'm looking for, until its final transition by the media outlets, enriched to a wide range of recipients or an individual with greater value in the immediate period of time, but that gradually decreases over time, loses its significance. It is very much related to the intelligence cycle in research, which has also the same steps, planning and direction, collection, processing of information, analysis, production, and then dissemination to the public at large. And the main steps that we use is, first we have to source, we have to collect and retrieve the information. Then we produce and develop this information and distribute it to the main channels, the most appropriate media channels, in order to reach and gain multiple levels of media messages and procedures. So the issues engaged here is the editorial procedures, the news agenda setters, and what information we choose to be communicated and what not. The information cycle is mostly used in journalism and professionals. But it is very important to have just an overview how an information is produced from initial production to its final dissemination. So in the digital era, we are talking about the new media and information literacy skills. And some of the elements of these MIL skills is networking online and offline, is to have an etiquette, is to take care of our private data and to care for the other users' private data, to be aware of our digital footprint, to use our critical thinking and problem-solving skills online, in content online, and of course, to be able to interact safely and ethically with artificial intelligence. This is the scheme that also I'm glad we're on the same page with Alex here. These are the main policy areas that UNESCO has set on AI, and you can see how they are interrelated with media and information literacy. And now some challenges that we come and face across every day. It's in our perplexed media realities, the challenges of perceiving, filtering, and deconstructing information are just too many. So it has to do with the influential character of the media. This derives the whole theory of medium is the message. So it is related to the media language that is used, the appropriate medium, and the multiple levels of meaning making. Then it has to do with the selective exposure to customized media content in terms of times and space. We choose at what media content we want to expose ourselves in certain times and in the certain medium. Then it has to do with the audience expectations and the perceptions. So this has to do with the news bias and the cultural and personal beliefs. And of course, the selective storage of the medium of the key messages in our mind and worldview. We choose what news, what information we will keep and what we will throw away according to our personal ideologies, to our personal beliefs. So this is very much closely related to the filter bubbles. And this is just an image I put there as the messenger of the 1970s. The challenges were more or less the same. I mean, you didn't have the medium, but all this gossiping and exchanging of views verbally also engage the personal ideologies and the biased version of some news. So news bias is when assumptions or opinions favoring one side of an issue or event, and in a way that can be unfair and distorted. So we have currently to ask ourselves, what is this information we're reading? Was it created to entertain us, to sell us projects, to persuade, to sell us services, to inform us, objectively inform us, or report on a news story? And the main information categories, I just put them there for your to be more clear. A news can be a fact, can be an opinion or point of view, it can be a commercial information or just entertainment news, infotainment. It can be propaganda and information manipulation, mostly used by the governments and politicians, and it can be raw information that is not been well researched yet. So this is from a news literacy project. We have always to consider the primary source of the information and the purpose that it was designed for. So some more things about news bias, because it is very important to have it in our mind. These are some examples. The first example comes from Checkology, which is an online tool, and it differentiates among the different types of bias. So you have corporate bias, bias that is coming from when the journal is trying to please the media ownership. It is closely related to the media outlet they are working for. So you have corporate bias. Then you have political bias and partisan bias, that it is associated to a certain political party, or something is being reported to please the government. And racial bias, cultural bias, news that are reflecting media stereotypes and ideologies, popular ideologies. Then the big stories bias, when the journalists are trying to report on big events without having effectively researched them, so they are missing key details. And then you have neutrality bias, which is very interesting, because it is when the journalist is trying too hard not to be biased, and then as an adverse effect, he ends to misrepresenting the facts. Another example of the cultural bias is this, the headline of an article: lazy teens are just sitting around, implying that teens, okay, because they're going through a difficult time, they are lazy. Third example, health bias. We also, what happened with the pandemic COVID-19 and how misinformation rapidly spread. And then you had the media bias, and this is a very interesting resource that you can go to fact check some news. I will be finishing here and saying that we have to use media and information literacy as our inner yes, I'm finishing, as our inner self-defense mechanism. And we have to use media and information literacy skills in order to be able to have a symbiotic relationship with media, artificial intelligence, and news literacy. These are the three main pillars, a tribal solution. And thank you very much for your time. Just a very nice picture. So this is your brain on media. This is your brain media literacy. So thank you very much for your time. This is my email.
Thank you for taking us through the life cycle you presented to us. Quite insightful. Most grateful for that. Yes. Without further ado, we know you have questions for Irene and for Alexandra, who earlier presented. So please, in case you do, keep piling them up. We'll get to the segment where the questions will be entertained. Please, the Zoom link may still go off again, but just try joining back so that we can continue. So we'll proceed to the next speaker for the day, the person of Dr. John. Please, are you on the call?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can I respectfully request
Wonderful.
Ma'am Irene? Can I respectfully request Ma'am Irene if I can be given the hosting capacity?
Yeah. Irene, please do us the kind favor of hosting. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. You now have hosting rights, okay. Dr. John. Proceed. Thank you. Thank you, Irene.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for the warm invitation, and it is a deep honor to present alongside with the champions and exemplars in media and information literacy research, policy, and practice. I am John N. Ponsaran. I teach political economy, poverty studies, and development research in the University of the Philippines, Manila. And I also serve as an affiliate faculty of the UP Open University, handling critical media literacy. This talk is an expanded version of my previous presentation in public sphere media and information literacy, but with the inclusion now of theoretical convergence that incorporates Jenkins' participatory culture, in addition to Paul Mihailidis' civic intentionality and McLaren and Crawford's critical praxis. Moreover, this presentation is informed by the interanimating influence of my formal training in development studies, governance, and communication, and their relevant application to media and information literacy praxis. The inclusion of media and information literacy as a required subject in the curriculum across many countries worldwide is an affirmation of its increasing strategic importance in public sphere education and socio-civic engagement, especially among the young professionals. But the overarching question is, how should this be pedagogically and discursively carried out, particularly in the context of formulating and designing textbook tasks? The focus of my exposition for this paper is therefore on media and information literacy in and through textbook task design. This conceptual paper argues that the civic intentionality meta-constructs of media scholar Paul Mihailidis, co-constitutively composed of agency, care, critical consciousness, persistence, and emancipation, mutually reinforce each other in contributing to the actualization of the potential of media and information literacy education as a social practice of academic vigilance and engaged scholarship, specifically when sought to be alternatively embodied in what were conservatively conceptualized textbook tasks and learning activities. In today's era of information obesity, network disinformation, and disinformation innovation in the digital ecology, there is a need to consciously align the MIL course along the politico-critical path. Towards this end, the role of instructional materials such as media and information literacy textbooks is crucial in achieving the political and pedagogical goals of creative and critical thinking, as well as action-taking among the younger generation. Within this context, the conceptualization of the public sphere is heavily influenced by the Habermasian perspective. In more specific terms, according to Valverde, as cited in O'Keeffe, textbooks translate the abstractions of curriculum policy into operations that teachers and students can carry out. When viewed from this theoretico-practical perspective, the portion of the textbook that both teachers and students can carry out are translated and concretely embodied in the specific questions, instructions, interpositions, instantiations contained and enshrined in the textbook task section. As such, the learner needs to realize that the set of competencies which they will acquire must function not only for self-development, that is self-change, but more imperatively for loftier societal objectives, that is change of broader conditions and circumstances. Communication scholar Denise McQuail, in his book Journalism and Society, outlined the contributions of media to the public sphere, namely maintaining space for public debate, circulating ideas, extending freedom, connecting citizens with governments, giving opportunities to voices of organized civil society to speak, and mobilization towards civic engagement. A civic intention and public sphere MIL must therefore contribute to the realization of this set of interconnected goals. The culture of individualism being fostered and foisted by neoliberal and ultra-consumerist media led to an even greater extent of atomization of society. This dysfunctional neoliberal pattern has also been observed to influence mainstream education in the broader sense. Critical development scholar Roland Simbulan, who is my mentor in development studies, demonstrated that in the academe, ideas are developed to perpetuate the prevailing order, arguments are shaped to legitimize dominant epistemic arrangement, and students are trained to supply the human resource requirements of the labor market structure under the entrenched economic system. Within this context, textbook contents and textbook tasks must be alternatively conceptualized and designed to problematize the established development logic and train students to become engaged scholars and citizen critics. Drawing from Paul Mihailidis' contention that media education must manifest strong civic intentionality, this research exposition argues that the textbook task segment possesses an immense potential to expand democratic education and engage the class and the local community in the collective task of tackling pressing social and sectoral issues. To advance this civic intentionality framework, Mihailidis articulated distinct yet interanimating core constructs and values, namely agency, care, critical consciousness, persistence, and emancipation that are mutually reinforcing in achieving the social goals of radical democracy and communication activism. In the book titled Civic Media Literacies, Reimagining Human Connections in an Age of Digital Abundance, Mihailidis argued about the need to reinsert human connectedness in the culture of digital abundance in fostering social solidarity and community engagement. He further pointed out that for the longest time, media literacy education only held these views implicitly, and that there is now a sense of greater urgency to actually embrace civic intentionality instead of just assume it. Boyd, as cited in Mihailidis, observed about the existing civic agency gap, which pertains to the gap between concern and the capacity to act, as manifested by the disconnect between being aware and meaningful engagement or action taking. Within the context of civic intentionality, agency refers to the people's strong determination to challenge the existing societal order and reimagine as well as co-create an alternative one. According to Arendt, as cited in Mihailidis, agency is closely linked to the freedoms that enable people to feel empowered to act in public, that is, to act decisively, publicly, and consistently. The ethics of care, which essentially involves the value of concern, is demonstrated through the benevolent, accommodating, and compassionate attitude towards others, especially for the most threatened and vulnerable segments of the society, such as the farmers, fisher folks, and the indigenous people. According to Gordon and Mulgar, as cited in Mihailidis, such caring culture creates an enabling social environment wherein all voices and interests are represented, accounted for, and involved in sharpening the outputs and effects of media practice. Critical consciousness is best summed up by the following attributes: being radically curious, politically aware, and empowered to intervene. It is a frame of analysis that views a particular deplorable condition as an opportunity to tackle and transform. Textbook tasks that are conceptualized along the critical tradition embolden learners into becoming change agents and social mobilizers, departing sharply from the orthodoxies of mere ivory tower scholars, detached observers, and armchair researchers. As a social value, persistence refers to the strong resolve and sense of purpose that is vital in hurdling stumbling blocks in the form of socio-structural barriers to accomplish tasks and achieve sustained success. Persistence, in more specific terms, pertain to the capacity to develop strong commitment and persevering attitude to stay on track despite failure, adversity, and plateau brought about by the challenges associated with and spawned by the dysfunctional digital culture. Meanwhile, scholar Stefania Melan envisions community radio, television station, independent print media initiative, and community-owned wireless networks as concrete embodiments of emancipatory communication. This alternative communication praxis affords the people the power of deciding who to speak, what messages should be transmitted, and on what particular conditions. When conceived consistent with emancipatory communication, the textbook task section then becomes a counter-cultural instrument against homogeneity, exclusivity, and passivity. Within this context, I view emancipatory communication in relation to communication activism to embody the following interrelated attributes, namely decolonial, indigenous, interdisciplinary, transregional, dialogical, dialectical, multimodal, multi-format, place-based, inclusive, safe, gender-sensitive, culturally sensitive, ethical, and of course, and more imperatively, liberating and empowering. As a counterpoint to the traditionally individualist education paradigm, Henry Jenkins introduced the participatory culture of learning, which possesses the attributes of being open, civic-oriented, creative, supportive, and most crucially, socially connected. Participatory culture subscribes to the pedagogical tradition of broadening the base of student competencies by developing new skills, but not setting aside the old ones that remain viable and are in fact complementary. Jenkins further argues that acquiring new media literacies must be conceived as a process of expansion instead of substitution, and that traditional skills are essential but never and not sufficient. This set of new media literacies constitute the following distinct but interconnected skills, namely play, performance, simulation, collective intelligence, judgment, transmedia navigation, networking, negotiation, among others. Fundamentally, Jenkins views new media literacies as social skills, considering their way of interacting within a larger community and not simply an individualized set of skills to be used for personal expression. As an integral component of textbooks, the student task section essentially acts as extension of the academic lessons. And as the application dimension of learning, it serves as the platform where self-reflection, reflective action, and collective reflective action can be potentially and progressively actualized stage by stage. The assigned tasks, therefore, must be designed as a coherent whole. A disjointed set of activities does not promote progressive and scaffolded learning. For instance, media text analysis about a controversial sexist or racist commercial advertisement, that is self-reflection, can serve as a conceptual basis in drafting a letter to the editor about the student's disdain to the advertisement in question, that is reflective action or praxis. And subsequently, in organizing an online signature drive with fellow BJ ethics advocates for various sectors and across regions, that is collective reflective action. Students stand to benefit from the expansive and immersive nature of media literacy education through the interdisciplinary, intersectional, intergenerational learning experience that it can potentially provide and put into practice. The exposition in the slide that follows underscores the multi-level, intersecting, and diverse learning encounters that civic intentioned media and information literacy can potentially bring about and develop. The school itself, as a community of learners and a community of practice, brings a vast potential to broaden and deepen students' learning and living encounters. Engagement with fellow learners from other sections and year levels is advantageous in widening the social and academic base to acquire knowledge from and share knowledge with. This can be extended further by including the school's alumni, the young professionals, and the existing academic network. Given the available information and communication technologies, an online community of practice or virtual community of practice among the district or diocesan schools, for instance, is a viable strategy to serve this pedagogical end. This will allow them to confer and exchange ideas and insight with fellow students from other learning contexts and communities, and such can even be expanded across local regions and even international scale for more diverse academic encounter that is also promotive of intercultural education and communication. Drawing from civic intentionality, participatory culture, and critical praxis, the following roles and themes, as well as outputs, are earnestly proposed. Serving as performing the role of sociologists in making sense of names and the social practice of naming through sociogram and narrative analysis, performing the role of gender advocates in combating gender disinformation through a public forum, performing the role of critical geographers and counter-cartographers in reconceptualizing the sense of place through critical geography by means of countermap, performing the role of media and information ethics advocates in problematizing artificial intelligence in its direct and indirect implications by way of webinar workshop, and performing the role of consumer activists in exposing and opposing fraudulent digital marketing through e-infographics and digital signature drive. To conclude, the culture of knowledge sharing between and through the social and civic spaces, such as the campus, community, and the broader policy ecology, must serve as one of the cornerstones of media and information literacy education. And this, I believe, needs to be complemented by co-developed tasks that are conceived and carried out by students themselves. The expansive nature of education must pave the way to greater democratization of learning. And one of the ways to actualize this is by providing students the opportunity to conceptualize and suggest alternative learning activities in any or combination of the following approaches. Number one, as part of the process of textbook production, as component of the periodic textbook revision, and or as part of modifying textbook tasks in the course of being adopted in class. The social practice will enable the students to co-design and therefore co-own the textbook task as learning collaborators and student consultants. Based on the foregoing, media and information literacy education, therefore, needs to be reimagined as intentionally civic. And within the context of this paper, such community-oriented mission becomes viable by adhering to a textbook task framework with an inherently critical, cultural, and context-conscious characteristics. It goes without saying that media and information literacy as a field of study and practice requires frequent, high level, and sustained encounter, not only with the media content, that is text and subtext, but also or more so with the social world, that is the context. As a transformative course and discourse, therefore, textbook producer must also not forget the critical role of media and information literacy in capacitating and activating the students and the youth sectors as community enablers. Towards this end, the alternatively conceived textbook task design should be framed to help address the pressing development issues faced by the locality with the students as well as their collaborators and interlocutors from the community in the forefront. And ultimately, this collective effort must be anchored on the fundamental precept that civic intentioned media education is co-constitutive of the broader liberation and social justice movement against all forms of insecurities, subalternities, and unfreedom. These are my set of references for this paper. Thank you for your kind attention.
Wow, John, thank you very much
Thank you,
for
sir.
the
Thank you.
for the academic exposition, taking us through a roller coaster ride of a lot of references, facts, figures. We are most grateful for that. If you're on this call, please take note that the time is running out. So in case you get logged out, just try joining back in again and you will get yourself into the program. So we just have one speaker left and one question and answer segment. So in case you have questions during our question and answer segment, if you are too shy to ask, please feel free to type and send them, or if you're bold enough and confident, feel free to speak up by kindly unmuting yourself. So our speakers are available on the call to speak to us. But for now, because we are waiting for the countdown to go, we'll just wait for the link to expire, then we'll join back in, and then we'll be glad to have our amiable last speaker for the day address us on the pertinent issues that has brought us to this meeting. So please just hold on while the link expires, then you join back in, and then I welcome you for the last segment of our speaker and for our question and answer. Thank you very much. We are most grateful to have you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your understanding.